welcome to part 4 of my DIY miniature room box. I'm going to show you the door that I made, but I just want to tell you, visit Little Gretchen's workshop where she does super detailed instructions on how to make doors. The only difference between mine and the one that she made is I did the transom window on top. So these are the pillars that I'm going to be using. So what I did was is I got the extra wide tongue depressors and so basically I'm trying to make cornices. So there's going to be a trim that's going to go in between each of these, so it's like a pillar. So for the bottom part of it I used these popsicle sticks that I had dyed previously with food coloring because I used them to make some toys for my birds. So you can see here that's kind of what these little cornices, I guess I'll call them. So to cut all of this trim, I cut everything by hand using this little saw and miter box, which is really super handy to use. That saw just cuts everything just like butter. So you can see I've got the basic layout done, and my next step is I have to cut the pillar pieces. And to keep everything kind of level, that trim at the top that you see, I've actually got that with down with museum wax. So these don't look like much, but once they're glued together, they'll look just fine. So this is the trim that I'm using for the pillars, and I got all of the trim for this project at Home Depot. So you can see I've got the basic layout down. That's the way I want it to look. But before I can glue anything down, I have to cut the holes for the window and the door. So this is the jigsaw that I used to cut out the window and the door. Yeah, I didn't film it because it was like just pretty precarious trying to use this old tool, but I did manage to cut it out. First of all, I took my drill and I drilled a big hole in each of the corners, and then I used this jigsaw to cut out the pieces. And it turned out not too bad. The window turned out fantastic. The door is a little bit wonky, but I'm not concerned about it at all because the trim will hide all of my sins, thank goodness. It would have been a bigger concern if the window was wonky. And you can see I'm just kind of putting the door inside, and it fits really nice. It'll be able to be glued in quite nicely. It just worked really well, and I didn't even have to really do much sanding in order to smooth it out. So I'm quite pleased with the way that looks. And you can see here when I hold it up. Do you see how it's higher on the left side than it is on the right side? I'm a little disappointed in myself that I cut it that unevenly. But as I say, the trim is going to hide my sins, so I'm not really too worried about it. And the window turned out really good, so that I am pleased about. So I've got everything kind of laid out. Nothing is glued down yet, but this is what it looks like. And then this piece right here is what I'm going to use for my around the windows. And also around the door jamb. Now that trim is the same trim that I use to hang the shelving inside the room box. So it's quite a handy little trim to grab. I'm really pleased with buying all of this stuff at Home Depot because if you compare it to the cost of buying a room box kit, I've saved so much money for myself for sure. So my next step will be to glue all of this down once I've got it all laid out. So it was very handy and I think a really good idea to put that very top piece down with museum wax, because that allows me to be able to make sure that everything is all level and straight. So you can see here I've got everything glued on now. So that's my basic door. I think it looks really good. That's the front of our little store. So I'm gonna let this dry overnight, and then I'm going to come back afterwards and put the trim around the windows and the door. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. Although it doesn't really look like much until we get it painted. So I did go out and buy these hinges. So we're dealing with like a box that's not very wide, so I had to find a very narrow hinge. I mean, ideally, a piano hinge probably would have been the best to do this job, but they're only available in 2 feet pieces. So this is kind of what it looks like. I've got everything kind of just sitting against the box. So just to give a quick look at it. So before I trim out the window and the door, I'm going to have to trace a pattern for the plastic that I'm going to be using for the windows. So I've just basically laid this down, and I'm going to be tracing the window, and this is like really super difficult to do when I'm holding the camera. So these will be the pattern for the window. So yes, so and once the window's in, of course that gives it a nice look. So the one in the bottom, of course, is for the transom window on top of the door. So I can go ahead and do my trim now. So yeah, I've got everything all glued in, and this is the trim. So the trim that I'm using is the exact same trim that I used to hang the shelving on the interior. So yeah, so I think that'll look really good. So I'm going to be making the trim a little bit smaller than the window, and that'll be what I'll be able to glue the plastic for the window. So there you go. So I've got to cut all that out and glue that in before I can move on to my next step. And I've got my miter shears here, which will be able to do nice miters in the corners. And yeah, I guess I could have used the miter box saw as well, but I used the miter shears for this. And I'm not 100% happy with the mitering that I did, but I'll show you how I fixed that. I seem to always have a little bit of a difficult time when it comes to mitering. So you can see there's kind of gaps in my mitering, and this trim is super expensive, so I wasn't gonna start doing it a second time. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill those gaps with some wood filler. So you can see here, oh geez, well, there's nothing much you can do about it. So I've used a little coffee stir stick for the center just above the door. And the reason why I chose to do that as opposed to using another trim is if I would have used something wider, then I wouldn't have had much of a window there at the top. So maybe a little bit of poor planning on my part. But so here I am with the wood filler, and I'm just going to fill in those miters on the corner. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed with myself, but you see, once I'm finished with this, you won't even be able to tell. I just find using the miter shears sometimes pretty awkward. So I'm just smearing this in like really good so that there is no light shining through it and giving it a good fill. And you can see that it takes away the definition of the trim, but I'm not worried about it. I'll show you my hack for doing this. So I'm just going to smear it into every corner, make sure that it's totally filled, And then I go back, and you got to make sure you do this while this wood filler is still wet. You take a damp paper towel and you just wipe it back. And it's not going to take anything out of the crack that you filled, but it is going to make sure that you can still see all the definition on the trim. Normally, when you use wood filler, you sand it, but you can't when you're using trim. So this is the color that I originally chose to do the outside of this room box, but I just couldn't get this color out of my mind from my inspiration piece. So if you remember, this is the inspiration piece that I fell in love with, and that's the color that I want to do this room box in. I just love that color so much. So I'm not going to bore you by doing a video of me painting the entire outside, but I will show you the first couple of strokes of paint that I did put on it. And I'm excited at this point. I really love this color. I'm just absolutely thrilled with this color. Now, of course, I didn't paint the very top because that's where my sign is eventually going to go. And I am going to paint it a different color, of course, like probably white with like black lettering. So I've just flipped it over, and this is what it looks like on the inside. I've got out my white acrylic paint, which did not work as good as the paint and primer all in one. That's actually 3 coats, and see how streaky it is? Wow. So I'm going to have to put some paint and primer over top of that, but that can be done after it's already hung. So I'm bringing out the pattern for the windows, and I went to the local grocery store at Safeway. They actually gave me this. This is the top of one of those giant birthday cakes. They were kind enough to give that to me. So I'm just going to go in with my magic marker and trace out my windows. So that's what it's going to look like. I don't worry about that magic marker showing, because once the trim is on the inside and the outside, you will never see that magic marker. So I've gone ahead and I've cut that out, and it actually turned out to be a perfect fit, which is crazy. That doesn't always happen. So there you go. So I've already got this window glued in. And so I'm going to actually show you how I put it in by doing the transom window here. So I basically take a brush, and I brush the tacky glue all over the inside of the trim. And you can see how wonky the cut is. That's where you really notice how bad I cut that door out. But that's, once the trim is on, you'll never be able to see that. So I'm just taking the tacky glue and I'm spreading it on the inside. And then I take the plastic and I insert it. So I've got to make sure that I insert it behind the door pin. Do you see the pin hinge? Got to make sure that the plastic goes behind that. So then I just put the plastic on, run my fingers around it, and there you go. If you enjoyed today's video and would like to help support my channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. Just go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Lisa Dobo. Thank you very much to everyone that has helped support my channel by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. I appreciate it more than you know. If you enjoyed today's video and you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing, because it really does help my channel grow. Please leave me comments and hit that like button. And if you hit the notification bell, you'll know every time I upload a new video. And we still have lots more work to do on this little room box, but that's it for today. So, and once again, everyone, have the best day ever.